Many photos in this video are of an actor. He's portraying the subject of the story. Reasons for the absence of photos should become obvious as the story unwinds. This is E.T., and this here is Johann Rukeli Trollmann, born 1907 in Lower Saxony, Germany. That word Rukeli is a nickname. It comes from the Romani or Gypsy language, and it means tree. And his family gave Johann that nickname because he was long-limbed and extremely sturdy. Well, he became a boxer, and he had a very fluid style. He started boxing very young, developed that style. In 1929, he moves to Berlin as a professional fighter. He's there in 1933 when the Nazis came to power and Adolf Hitler became Reich Chancellor. Johann, as a Sinto gypsy, was facing now very severe racial discrimination. On June 9 of 1933, he won the German light heavyweight title. He was fighting Adolf Witt, and Rukeli led by points. Yet the fight was judged to be a no contest. The audience heard that. There was a near riot. The officials had to acknowledge Trollmann now as winner. But 6 days later, he'd be stripped of his championship belt. Nonetheless, his manager, Trollmann's manager, was able to get another big fight in Berlin against a really good fighter, Gustav Eder, a kind of George Foreman type of fighter. Before this match, Trollmann was told, "You cannot fight in that non-Aryan athletic dancing way, and you have to slug it out in the middle of the ring. You cannot," in other words, they told him, "dance like a gypsy." I should note here that Adolf Hitler, when he wrote his book Mein Kampf, that was in the mid-1920s, it translates to My Struggle, mentioned only two sports. One was jiu-jitsu, the other boxing. The latter he considered extremely important. Anyway, getting to the fight with Eder. Now that he knows he's going against a slugger and he cannot dance away from him, Johann Rukeli Trollmann entered the ring with his hair dyed blonde and his skin powdered white. It's a caricature of an Aryan. It was his way of criticizing. He said before the fight, "I'll not allow myself to be discredited as a Sinti. I will make a mockery of this racist description of the dancing gypsy, and instead I will play the Aryan sport boxer." Needless to say, he lost the match, but he lasted 5 rounds. Boy, he really got battered before he was knocked out. A researcher, Mikhail Krasnick, described Trollmann's performance in these words, and I'm quoting, "Whether he was driven by anger, irony, or despair, we don't know. But one thing is for sure, Johann Trollmann was brave enough to end his career by himself and in front of everyone." He did continue to have a few fights after that. He lost every one. Well, officially. He had to lose. It was ordered. Finally, in late 1935, he would be expelled from the German Pugilism Association, which meant he cannot make a living fighting. All he could do was odd jobs. He did fight at some fairs. Nonetheless, he was able to get married. He married Olga Frieda Bilda, a German woman, and they had one child. Her name was Rita. Then Johann Rukeli Trollmann was sent to a labor camp. Now, this is not a death camp, but it was tough. Several times he had to go into hiding. And between 35 and 38, he gets occasional odd jobs. He was forced in 1938, forced by his conscience, to get a divorce because death threats were coming in every day, threatening to kill the child, the mother, to kill Trollmann himself. So he got the divorce to protect his family. Rita, the daughter, would be a teenager before ever learning the identification of her father. In 1939, Rukeli Trollmann is drafted into the Wehrmacht, that is the army. Now, here he thinks he's going to be immune from further persecution. In 1941, he is wounded on the Eastern Front and then returned home, if you want to call it that, to Germany. But in June of 1942, after being discharged from the Wehrmacht, he was arrested by the Gestapo, the secret police, and sent to the Neuengamme concentration camp. That's near Hamburg. And he, as were others, was sterilized. It was a vasectomy. Over time, in that prison camp, Rukeli Trollmann lost, it is reported, 60 pounds. I'll put the kilos up. People described him as emaciated. Trollmann tried to keep a low profile, but the commandant had been a boxing official as a civilian, recognized Trollmann, and forced him, Trollmann, to train his soldiers during the nights. Well, as his health deteriorated because of the 16-hour workdays, Trollmann's friends were able to give him a different identity, that of another prisoner who died. So now under a false identity, he is sent camp, Wittenberg. But he's immediately recognized there. And the prisoners, not quite as friendly as before, organize a fight between the emaciated and sick Trollmann versus Emil Cornelius, who weighed far more, was a former criminal. He was one of those hated capos. A capo is a prisoner, but one who gets all sorts of privileges for doing things, well, like killing people. So here the match is taking place between a sick, emaciated former boxer named Johann Trollmann versus a healthy, heavy, vicious Cornelius. The winner was Trollmann. Cornelius was so upset that he demanded Trollmann work all day until exhausted. And the next day, Cornelius, snuck up behind Trollmann, probably with a shovel, we're not sure, with an implement. And he killed Johann Rukeli Trollmann. Trollmann's body was then shot full of bullets, don't ask me why, thrown into a mass grave with the other corpses of the Wittenberg camp. This was in 1944. The war in Europe is almost over. Trollmann was aged 36. Here is a memorial stone. It's called the Stumbling Stone, Stolperstein, that commemorates Trollmann in, I think this one's in Hanover. There's a plaque, I think this one's in Berlin. And then there's the famous box camp, the Johann Trollmann box camp, all to commemorate this great fighter. In 2003, the German Boxing Association recognized Johann Trollmann as the rightful light heavyweight champion for 1933, vindicating the Gypsy in the ring, the first Gypsy King. This is E.T. Put in your comments below. Subscribe if you have not done so. Share these videos on other social media. Thank you.